They left her bleeding in an alley because she was just a waitress. Disposable, forgettable. The kind of person whose name you never learn and whose face blurs into the background of your memory 5 minutes after they refill your coffee. But when her blood touched the dying vampire king chained to that tree in Blackwood Forest, it did something impossible. It healed him. In one night, Elena Morrison would go from invisible to the most powerful woman in the supernatural world. She would stand before 200 vampires in Crimson Hall and prove that everyone who ever looked through her had been catastrophically wrong. This is how it happened. This is how she proved them all wrong. The clock above the diner counter read 1:47 a.m. when the bell over the door chimed. Elena Morrison looked up from wiping down the vinyl booth seats, her shoulders aching from 12 straight hours on her feet, and felt her stomach drop. She knew these people, not personally, but she knew the type. The way they walked in like they owned not just the diner, but the air inside it. The way their clothes probably cost more than her entire month's rent. The way they looked at her, or rather didn't look at her at all. The man leading the group was tall, dark-haired, impossibly handsome, in that carved from marble way that didn't seem quite real. Lucian Ashford. He'd been here twice before this month, always late, always with an entourage. Always treating her like a piece of furniture. "Sit anywhere," Martha called from behind the counter, her voice sugary sweet in a way it never was for regular customers. Martha knew money when she saw it. The group chose the corner booth, 6 of them. Lucian slid into the center, flanked by a blonde woman in a dress that probably cost more than Elena's car. Victoria something. Elena had heard her name once and immediately forgotten it because Victoria had never once made eye contact. Elena grabbed her order pad and walked over her sneakers, squeaking slightly on the checkered linoleum. She was 23 years old. She had 2 community college degrees she couldn't afford to finish. She lived in a 1-bedroom apartment with her elderly landlord's cat because the rent was $200 cheaper if she fed it. "Coffee," Lucian said without looking up from his phone. Not a question, a statement. "For everyone." Elena's voice came out smaller than she intended. Obviously, Victoria's tone could have frozen fire. Elena poured 6 cups of coffee with hands that wanted to shake, but didn't. She'd learned years ago how to keep her hands steady when everything inside her was screaming. When you're overlooked your entire life, you learn to be still, to not make waves, to take up as little space as possible. She set the last cup down in front of Lucian, just as he gestured broadly with his hand, talking to the man across from him. His elbow connected with the cup. Coffee exploded across the table, across his expensive shirt, across Victoria's dress. The entire diner went silent. "Are you kidding me?" Victoria shot to her feet, coffee dripping from the hem of her dress. "Can't you do anything right?" "I'm so sorry, Elena grabbed napkins, her face burning. "You spilled on him." Victoria's voice carried across the empty diner like a whip crack. "Look at his shirt. That's a $1,000 shirt." Didn't he move his arm?" "Are you saying this is his fault?" Victoria's laugh was sharp, cruel. "Of course you are, because people like you never take responsibility, do you?" Elena's hands stopped moving. "People like you." She'd heard variations of that phrase her entire life. "People like you don't go to university. People like you should be grateful for any job. People like you don't deserve more." "I apologize," Elena said quietly, forcing the words out. "It was my fault. I'll pay for the dry cleaning." "With what?" Victoria looked her up and down. "Your tips, sweetie. You couldn't afford the tax on his shirt." The man across from Lucian laughed. Others joined in. Elena felt something hot and sharp lodge in her throat. "Victoria," Lucian's voice was mild, almost bored. "Leave it." "She should be fired." Victoria turned to Martha. "You saw what she did." Martha's face was carefully neutral, but Elena could read the calculation behind her eyes. 6 wealthy customers, 1 replaceable waitress. "Elena," Martha's voice was gentle, which somehow made it worse. "Apologize to Mr. Ashford and his guests." "I already properly." The hot, sharp thing in Elena's throat grew teeth. But she was 23 and she had $400 in her bank account, and her electricity bill was due in 3 days. So she looked at Lucian Ashford's perfect cold face and said the words that tasted like acid. "I apologize for my clumsiness, Mr. Ashford. It won't happen again." He waved a hand, dismissing her, already looking back at his phone. "Clean this up," Martha said quietly. "Then you can take your break." Elena cleaned the spilled coffee with hands that still didn't shake, even though her vision blurred slightly at the edges. She disappeared into the back room, past the walk-in freezer, into the tiny space that barely qualified as a break room. She sat on an upside-down milk crate and pressed her palms against her eyes. She didn't cry. She'd learned years ago that crying didn't fix anything. It just made your face blotchy and people uncomfortable. She breathed. In for 4 counts, out for 4 counts. The technique her grandmother had taught her before she died back when Elena was too young to understand why breathing exercises would matter. You're stronger than they know. Her grandmother's voice whispered through memory. When the time comes, you'll understand. Elena had never understood what that meant. Her grandmother had died when Elena was 5 too young to remember much, except the feeling of safety, of being seen, of mattering to someone. The break room clock ticked toward 2:15 a.m. Her shift ended at 2:30. Then the 40-minute walk home through Blackwood Forest because her car's alternator had died last week and she couldn't afford the $200 repair. She stood, washed her face in the tiny sink, looked at herself in the cracked mirror. Brown hair pulled into a practical ponytail, gray eyes that seemed too large for her face, the faded scar along her jawline from a childhood accident she barely remembered, the cheap uniform shirt that was getting thin at the elbows. Nothing special, nothing remarkable, just Elena Morrison. She walked back out into the diner. Lucian's group was leaving laughing about something. Victoria glanced back, once her eyes sliding past Elena like she was part of the furniture. The door chimed. They were gone. Martha handed Elena her tips for the night. $47. You did good, honey, Martha said. Some people are just like that, not worth getting upset over. Elena nodded because what else could she do? She clocked out at 2:28 a.m., grabbed her jacket from the hook by the door and stepped out into the November cold. The parking lot was empty except for Martha's sedan and one flickering streetlight that buzzed like a dying wasp. Elena pulled her jacket tighter, too thin for the weather, but her winter coat had been stolen from the laundromat 3 months ago and started walking. Most people took the road that curved around Blackwood Forest, added 20 minutes to the walk, but stayed under streetlights, stayed visible, stayed safe. Elena took the path through the forest, 15 minutes shorter. She'd walked it hundreds of times. Nothing had ever happened. The forest path was exactly as she remembered, packed dirt worn smooth by decades of footsteps. Oak trees older than her grandmother pressing close on both sides. The smell of decaying leaves and cold earth. The sound of her footsteps and her breathing, and nothing else. She was halfway through when the air changed. It was subtle at first, a taste on her tongue like copper pennies, a pressure against her eardrums like descending in an airplane, the hair on her arms standing up despite her jacket. Elena slowed, stopped. Hello. Her voice sounded small into the darkness. No answer, just the wind moving through bare branches. She should keep walking, should get home, should a sound, not wind, not an animal. Breathing, human breathing, rough and pained. Is someone there? Elena pulled out her phone, turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, sweeping across familiar trees, familiar path, and landed on something impossible. A man, chained to the ancient oak tree that marked the halfway point. His arms were stretched, wide wrists bound with chains that glowed with a sick pale light that hurt to look at directly. Silver but wrong. The glow pulsed like a heartbeat, and where the metal touched his skin, it burned. Elena's breath stopped. The man's head hung forward, a dark hair matted with blood. His clothes were shredded. His chest rose and fell in shallow gasps. The chains were covered in symbols, runes maybe that seemed to shift and crawl when she looked at them too long. Oh my God. Elena stumbled forward, phone clutched in one hand. Oh my God, I'm calling 911. Just hold on. No. The word was barely more than a breath. His head lifted, slowly, like it took every ounce of strength he possessed. Elena's phone light caught his face. He was beautiful, inhumanly beautiful. Sharp cheekbones and a strong jaw and eyes that reflected the light like an animal's gleaming gold in the darkness. Those eyes focused on her with desperate intensity. Please, he rasped. No police, they'll kill me. Who did this to you? Elena's hand was shaking now, phone light bouncing wildly. Who would? Doesn't matter. He coughed and something dark spattered the ground. You need to leave. They're coming back. I'm not leaving someone chained to a tree. Elena moved closer despite every instinct screaming at her to run. The chains pulsed brighter as she approached, and up close she could see the symbols weren't just etched into the metal, they were moving, shifting, reforming like living things. Don't touch the chains. His voice was stronger now, urgent. The silver will burn you, unless you're... He stopped, stared at her. No, that's impossible. What's impossible? Elena reached for the chains anyway. Don't! Her fingers made contact. Pain exploded through her hand like grabbing a live wire. She yanked back with a yelp, cradling her palm against her chest. The skin was angry red, already blistering into the shape of the chain links. I warned you, but there was something odd in his voice. Surprise, maybe. What the hell are these? Elena wrapped her hand in the hem of her shirt, eyes stinging with tears. You're not human, she whispered. No. His mouth twisted into something that might have been a smile in better circumstances. I'm not. My name is Diamond Ashford. I'm a vampire. The Vampire King, technically. And someone from my own court left me here to die slowly while these chains drain every drop of power from my blood. Elena stared at him. Vampires? Vampire kings. She should laugh, should run, should do literally anything except stand here in the middle of Blackwood Forest at 2:47 a.m., listening to a clearly delusional man talk about vampires and kings and blood. But the chains glowed, they'd burned her. And his eyes, they weren't human eyes. Vampires aren't real, she said, but her voice shook. The silver burning your hand isn't real either then. His eyes, gold, impossible, met hers. I don't have time to convince you. Listen, do you hear that? Elena went still, strained her ears. Footsteps, multiple sets, moving through the forest with purpose, getting closer. They're coming back to finish the job. Demon's voice dropped to an urgent whisper. They'll see you. They'll know you touched the runes. Please run. Forget you saw me. The footsteps grew louder, closer, and with them voices speaking in a language that sounded like no language Elena had ever heard. Guttural and sharp and wrong. Elena looked at the man chained before her, at the burns covering his body, at the way the chains seemed to be drinking his life moment by moment. She thought about her grandmother who'd filled her childhood with stories of monsters and magic. Stories Elena had dismissed as fairy tales from an old woman losing touch with reality. Her grandmother, who'd made her memorize strange symbols, who'd insisted Elena never walk this path at night, who'd whispered, when the time comes, you'll know what to do. The footsteps were maybe 30 seconds away. Screw it, Elena muttered. She yanked off her jacket and wrapped it around her already burned hand, layering the fabric thick. Then she grabbed the chains. Pain shot through her again, but muffled this time. She gritted her teeth and pulled, searching for a lock, a clasp, anything. Her fingers found where two chains connected. The runes were concentrated there, burning even through the jacket. She twisted, pulled. Something gave with a sound like breaking glass. The chains fell slack. Demon collapsed forward. Elena caught him. He was cold, unnaturally cold, and she could feel him trembling. Despite being at least 6 inches taller and significantly heavier than her, she managed to get her shoulder under his arm. Can you walk? Yes, maybe. He pushed himself upright, swaying. The voices had stopped. Somehow that was worse than hearing them approach. We need to go, now. Elena grabbed his arm, and together they stumbled away from the oak tree. Her pickup truck was parked on the old service road, maybe a quarter-mile north. If they could just reach it. Something whistled past her ear. She turned her head, saw it embedded in the tree beside them. A crossbow bolt, at its tip gleaming the same 6 silver as the chains. Run! Demon's voice held an edge of command that made her legs move before her brain caught up. They crashed through the undergrowth branches, whipping at their faces. Behind them, footsteps gave chase. Fast. Impossibly fast. Another bolt sliced past close enough that Elena felt the displacement of air against her cheek. They'll come for you now, Demon gasped as they ran. You touched the runes. They'll know. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Elena didn't waste breath on answering. She just ran, half dragging a vampire king through Blackwood Forest at 3 in the morning, her hand screaming in pain, her lungs burning, and killers at her back. Her grandmother's voice echoed in memory. When the time comes, you'll know what to do. Trust your blood. It knows the way. The old woman had been crazy, or Elena was. Or maybe the world was far stranger and more dangerous than she'd ever imagined, and her boring life as a small-town waitress had just shattered into 1,000 impossible pieces. The service road appeared through the trees ahead. Her beat-up pickup truck sat exactly where she'd left it that morning, a lifetime ago, when her biggest problem had been a spilled cup of coffee. They just had to make it 20 more feet. Behind them, something snarled in that inhuman language, and the footsteps got faster. Elena's hands shook as she fumbled with her keys. The truck was old enough that it still had an actual lock, not one of those electronic fobs. The key slipped in her burned, shaking fingers. Once. Twice. Another bolt struck the truck bed with a metallic thunk. She finally jammed the key home. The door groaned open. She'd been meaning to oil those hinges for months, and she practically threw Damon into the passenger seat. She dove into the driver's seat, turned the ignition. Nothing happened. No, 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 she tried again. The engine sputtered. They're 20 feet behind us, Damon said, his voice eerily calm despite the situation. If this vehicle doesn't start in the next 5 seconds, we're dead. Not helping, Elena pumped the gas pedal and turned the key again. The engine roared to life. She slammed the truck into reverse without checking her mirrors hit the gas. The truck lurched backward. In her rearview mirror, she caught a glimpse of 3 figures emerging from the tree line. They wore dark tactical gear and carried crossbows, and their faces were hidden behind masks that gleamed dully in the moonlight. Elena spun the wheel, executing a chaotic 3-point turn on the narrow service road. Bolts pinged off the tailgate. One shattered her passenger side mirror in an explosion of glass. Drive faster, Damon said. I'm trying. The truck fishtailed on loose gravel as she accelerated. The service road was barely wide enough for one vehicle, full of potholes and erosion grooves that threatened to tear off her suspension with every bounce. Behind them, headlights flared to life. Of course they have vehicles, Elena muttered. They won't stop. Damon braced himself against the dashboard as Elena took a turn too fast, tires screaming. The order will be to eliminate us both. No witnesses. Who are they? Shadow Guard. Elite assassins loyal to whoever paid them. He coughed, wincing. Whoever betrayed me hired the best. Elena's truck wasn't built for speed. It was built for reliability, usually. The pursuing vehicle, some kind of black SUV, was gaining on them, its engine a predatory growl cutting through the night. There's an old ranger station, Elena said, mind racing. About 2 miles east. It's been abandoned for years, but shelter. Maybe. Better than being run off the road. The SUV rammed into their bumper. Elena's head snapped forward, then back. She tasted blood where she'd bitten her tongue. The truck swerved wildly, tires screaming, as she fought for control. Hold on. She cranked the wheel hard, right, taking them off the service road entirely and onto what used to be a firebreak path. Trees closed in on both sides, branches scraping paint from her truck with sounds like fingernails on a chalkboard. The SUV tried to follow. Too wide. She heard the crunch of metal on wood as they fell back, forced to slow down. You bought us maybe 2 minutes, Damon said. They'll find another route or continue on foot. 2 minutes is all I need. Elena killed the headlights, navigating by memory, and the faint moonlight filtering through the canopy. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Her hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel. The burn on her palm throbbed with each heartbeat. 3 hours ago, she'd been pouring coffee, being overlooked, being treated like furniture. Now she was fleeing assassins with a vampire king bleeding in her passenger seat. The ranger station materialized out of the darkness. A squat concrete building with boarded windows and a sagging roof. She pulled the truck behind it out of sight from the main paths and cut the engine. Silence crashed down around them, broken only by their ragged breathing. Can you walk? Elena whispered. Damon nodded, but when he tried to get out of the truck, his legs buckled. Elena caught him again, feeling how much colder he'd gotten. The silver poisoning, or whatever those chains had been doing, was still working through his system. She half-carried him to the ranger station's back entrance. The door hung crooked on broken hinges, opening with a rusty squeal that made her wince. Inside, the air smelled of mold and animal droppings. Her phone's flashlight revealed collapsed furniture, graffiti on the walls, and thank God no squatters. Elena lowered Damon onto a relatively clean section of floor against the far wall. Then she moved to the windows, peering through gaps in the boards. Nothing yet, but they'd come. Let me see your hand, Damon said quietly. Elena had almost forgotten about the burn. She unwrapped her ruined jacket, held out her palm. Even in the dim light, the damage was obvious. The skin was blistered and raw, the pattern of the chain's runes seemingly branded into her flesh. Damon took her hand, gently studying it with those unsettling golden eyes. This shouldn't have happened, he said. The silver is keyed to supernatural beings. It's specifically designed to be harmless to humans. The runes amplify it, make it lethal to creatures like me. But they should pass through human tissue like light through glass. Well, clearly they didn't get the memo. Elena tried to pull her hand back, but Damon held on. Wait, look. The burns were fading, not quickly but visibly, the angry red subsiding to pink, the blisters flattening. Within seconds, only faint marks remained, where moments ago there'd been raw, blistered flesh. How? A sound outside cut her off. Footsteps. Deliberately slow. Searching. Demon's eyes met hers in the darkness, and Elena saw something there that terrified her more than the chains, more than the silver bolts, more than any of this nightmare. Recognition. You're not just human, he whispered. You're something else entirely. The footsteps stopped outside the ranger station door. Elena pressed her finger to her lips, heart hammering. Through the gaps in the boarded windows, she could make out shadows moving. At least two figures circling the building. A voice called out from outside, speaking that strange guttural language. Another voice answered from the opposite side of the building. They were coordinating. Boxing them in, Demon's hand closed around her wrist, pulling her down beside him. His skin was ice cold, and she could feel him trembling with the effort of staying upright. The back exit, Elena mouthed. He shook his head firmly, pointing to his legs. He'd collapsed before they made it 10 feet. The silver poisoning had drained him more than she'd realized. The front door rattled. Testing. Elena's gaze fell on the remnants of a filing cabinet in the corner. Old ranger station, which meant old equipment, old supplies, maybe even. She crawled across the floor as quietly as possible, praying the ancient floorboards wouldn't creak. Her fingers found the cabinet drawers. The first was empty. The second held nothing but mouse droppings and moldy paper. The third, her hand closed around something cylindrical and metal. A flare gun. She checked the chamber by phone light. One flare loaded, and miraculously 2 more in the drawer. The manufacturing date was from 1987, but it was worth a shot, literally. The door rattled again. Harder this time. Wood splintered. Elena crawled back to Damon, showed him the flare gun. His eyebrows rose, and something that might have been approval flickered across his face. Distraction, he whispered. Distraction, she confirmed. The door burst open. Elena didn't wait. She aimed the flare gun at the doorway and pulled the trigger. The flare erupted in a screaming ball of red fire, catching the first assassin square in the chest. He stumbled backward, with a shout, his tactical vest igniting. The chemical fire clung to him, spreading. He fell to the ground outside, rolling and screaming. The second assassin appeared in the doorway, crossbow raised. Demon moved. Despite his weakened state, despite the silver still poisoning his system, he moved faster than anything human. He grabbed a broken chair leg and hurled it like a javelin. It caught the assassin in the shoulder, spinning him around. The crossbow bolt went wild, embedding itself in the ceiling. Now, Demon gasped. Back door. Elena grabbed his arm, hauling him up. They stumbled through the back of the ranger station, past rotted equipment and collapsed shelving. Behind them, more footsteps pounded into the building. Reinforcements. They burst out the back exit into cold night air. Elena's truck sat 20 feet away. Beyond it, the forest stretched dark and endless. But Demon was slowing. Each step seemed to cost him more. His breath came in harsh gasps. His weight was getting heavier on her shoulder. Get to your vehicle, he said through gritted teeth. Leave me, you can still. Shut up and keep moving. Elena practically dragged him the last few feet. She threw open the truck's passenger door. That's when she saw it. A piece of silver chain still wrapped around Damon's left wrist, half hidden by his tattered sleeve. The runes on it pulsed with that sickly light, and where it touched his skin, the flesh was blackened. Burned. You're still wearing part of the chains. She grabbed at it without thinking. Pain lanced through her reopened burn, but she held on, twisting the metal. It came apart in her hands, the runes flickering and dying. A drop of blood welled up from her palm, one single drop falling in slow motion. It landed on Demon's wrist, right where the silver had burned deepest. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then Damon's skin began to heal. Not slowly like her burn had healed, rapidly, impossibly. The blackened flesh turned pink, then pale, the damage erasing itself in seconds. They both stared. That's not possible, Demon said, his voice barely audible. Human blood doesn't heal vampires. It sustains us, gives us strength, but it doesn't heal. Nothing heals silver burns except time and... He looked up at her, those golden eyes wide with something between awe and fear. What are you, Chua? Shouts erupted from inside the ranger station. The assassins had found the back exit. Someone who's saving your life, apparently. Elena shoved him into the truck. Questions later, driving now. She slammed the door and ran around to the driver's side. The engine started on the first try, small miracles, and she threw the truck into gear. As they tore away from the ranger station, headlights flaring behind them, once again, Elena caught sight of her hand on the steering wheel. The burn marks were completely gone. And beneath where they'd been, faint silver lines traced across her palm. Lines that looked suspiciously like the runes from the chains. Lines that were glowing. Elena's foot pressed harder on the accelerator. The truck's engine screamed as she pushed it faster than it had ever gone. Behind them, the SUV's headlights carved through the darkness. Relentless. Gaining. They won't give up, Demon said. His color had improved slightly. The healing from her blood had given him some strength back, though he still looked half dead. The Shadow Guard never abandons a contract. Then we don't stop until we hit the city. Elena's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Emberfall is 40 minutes away. There are people there, witnesses, cameras. You think human laws will protect you? Demon laughed, but it was a bitter sound. The supernatural world operates in the shadows of yours. We've existed alongside humanity for thousands of years, and you never notice. Great, wonderful. I'll have my existential crisis later. Elena yanked the wheel left, taking them onto the main highway. The truck's tires squealed in protest. The SUV followed close enough now that she could see there were 3 figures inside. How much of your strength is back? She asked. Demon flexed his hands, testing. Maybe 20%, enough to fight one of them, not 3 at once. Better than nothing. Elena's mind raced. The highway into Emberfall was straight and open, no cover, nowhere to lose them. But once they reached the city limits, the streets became a maze of alleys and one-way roads. If she could just, the SUV rammed them from behind. Harder this time. The truck swerved wildly. Elena fought for control, her heart in her throat. They were trying to run her off the road. Flip them. End this quickly. They're going to hit us again, Demon said, unnaturally calm. Brace yourself. The impact came from the side this time. Metal shrieked. The truck tilted 2 wheels, lifting off the pavement. Elena screamed, certain they were going to roll. Then gravity pulled them back down with a bone-jarring crash. That's it. Demon's voice had changed. Deeper, rougher, more dangerous. Stop the vehicle. Are you insane? Trust me. He met her eyes and she saw something ancient staring back. Something that had survived for centuries and wouldn't die tonight. Stop now. Against every survival instinct, Elena slammed on the brakes. The truck screeched to a halt in the middle of the highway. The SUV shot past them, their driver not expecting the sudden stop. Brake lights flared as they tried to slow down. Demon was already out of the truck. Despite his injuries, despite the silver poisoning still working through his system, he moved with deadly grace. He reached the SUV before it fully stopped, grabbed the driver's door, and ripped it off its hinges like it was made of cardboard. The driver swung a silver-edged blade. Demon caught his wrist twisted. The man screamed. The blade clattered to the pavement. 2 more assassins poured out of the SUV's passenger side, crossbows raised. Demon, Elena shouted. He spun impossibly fast, using the driver as a shield. The crossbow bolt meant for Demon's heart struck the driver instead. The man convulsed and went still, the silver working just as lethally on him as it would on any supernatural being. So the assassins weren't human either. Demon dropped the body and lunged at the second assassin. They collided in a blur of motion too fast for Elena to follow. She heard the crack of breaking bones, a wet gurgling sound. Then Damon was standing alone, breathing hard. The third assassin had circled around the vehicles, heading straight for Elena. She scrambled back into her truck, reaching for anything she could use as a weapon. Her hand closed around the flare gun, still loaded with 2 more flares. The assassin raised his crossbow, sighting down at her through the windshield. Elena fired first. The flare punched through the windshield in an explosion of glass and red fire. It struck the assassin in the face. He dropped screaming, clawing at the chemical flames consuming his head. Silence fell over the highway, broken only by crackling fire and Damon's heavy breathing. Elena stepped out of the truck on shaking legs. 3 bodies lay on the pavement. The SUV was a wreck. Her truck's front end was smashed, windshield shattered. She was pretty sure the frame was bent. We need to go, Demon said, already moving toward the SUV. Others will come. They always send backup teams. That thing's totaled. It'll run. He climbed into the driver's seat, turned the key still dangling in the ignition. The SUV's engine rumbled to life. Get in, we're going to Emberfall. Elena grabbed what she could from her truck, her purse, phone, a jacket from the back seat, and climbed into the SUV. It smelled like leather and something metallic she tried not to think about. Demon accelerated smoothly, leaving the carnage behind. Within minutes, they'd put miles between themselves and the bodies. You killed them, Elena said quietly. They would have killed us. No emotion in his voice, just fact. And they'll keep coming. Whoever wants me dead has unlimited resources and no conscience. Because you're the vampire king. Yes. And I'm, what did you call it, the bloodline thing? Demon's hands tightened on the wheel. I don't know yet, but your blood healed me. The runes responded to you, And those marks on your palm, he glanced at her hand. Those are protector marks. They haven't been seen in 300 years. The city lights of Emberfall appeared on the horizon, glittering like fallen stars. We'll be safe there, Elena asked. Demon's laugh was dark. No, but we'll be hidden. In a city of 500,000 people, we're just two more faces in the crowd until they find us again. Until then, Elena said and left the sentence hanging. They drove in silence for a while. Elena's mind kept circling back to impossible things. Vampires, protectors, silver chains and glowing runes. Her blood doing what human blood shouldn't be able to do. My grandmother, she said slowly. Before she died, she used to tell me stories. About our family, about ancient warriors who protected kings. She looked at Damon. I thought she was making it all up, creating a fantasy to make our boring life seem interesting. She was trying to prepare you. Demon's voice was gentle. In case you ever encountered one of us. In case your bloodline was ever activated. Fat lot of good it did. I had no idea what I was walking into tonight. You saved my life anyway. That counts for something. Dawn was threatening the horizon when they reached Emberfall's outskirts. Demon steered them through back roads, avoiding main streets and traffic cameras. His knowledge of the city was intimate, every alley, every abandoned building, every shadow where something supernatural could hide. There, he pointed to a rundown motel wedged between a clothes factory and an auto repair shop. The kind of place that rented by the hour and didn't ask questions. The Night Haven Motel's neon sign flickered weakly, half the letters dark. Elena counted maybe 3 other cars in the parking lot. The building itself looked like it hadn't been renovated since the 1970s. Glamorous, she muttered. It's south-facing. The rooms have blackout curtains and no windows on the back wall. Demon's voice was growing weaker again. The brief surge of strength from the fight was fading. I need darkness. Complete darkness. The sun will kill me in minutes. Elena checked her phone. 5:47 a.m. sunrise in less than 30 minutes. She went to the motel office alone. Demon couldn't risk being seen. The clerk was an elderly man who barely looked up from his crossword puzzle when she paid cash for 3 nights. Room 118. Ground floor. Back corner. The room was exactly as depressing as she'd expected. Stained carpet, a bed that sagged in the middle, a bathroom that smelled like mildew. But Damon was right, the curtains were thick, vinyl-backed fabric. When she drew them, not a sliver of light penetrated. She helped him inside just as the sun crested the horizon. Even the indirect morning light made him wince, his skin reddening where it touched. How bad is it? She asked. The sunlight thing. Combustion within 5 minutes of direct exposure. Damon collapsed onto the bed, his face gray with exhaustion. Indirect light causes burns. This room will work. Elena locked the door, engaged the chain, then shoved a chair under the handle for good measure. Only then did she let herself fall into the room's single armchair. 3 hours ago, she'd been a waitress taking a shortcut home. Now she was harboring a vampire king in a motel room, hiding from supernatural assassins with glowing marks on her hand that shouldn't exist. I need answers, she said. Real ones. Starting with why my blood healed you. Demon propped himself up on one elbow, studying her in the darkness. There was an ancient bloodline. Humans, but not quite. They were called the Silver Crest Protectors. People whose genetics marked them as guardians of vampire royalty. Guardians, like bodyguards. More than that, companions, advisors, and in times of crisis, healers. His golden eyes reflected the faint light leaking under the door. A protector's blood could neutralize silver poisoning, accelerate healing, even shield a vampire from certain types of magic. In return, the vampire they bonded with gave them extended life, enhanced strength, and protection. Sounds like a pretty one-sided deal. It was symbiotic. The protectors weren't slaves. They were honored, powerful. Demon's expression darkened. But the bloodline was dangerous. Other vampire courts feared them, feared what it meant for a king to have such an advantage. 300 years ago, the bloodline wars happened. Every protector family was hunted down and eliminated. Every single one. Apparently not every single one, Elena said, looking at her marked palm. Apparently not. Demon lay back down. Someone in your lineage survived, went into hiding. Your family probably didn't even know what they were. The gifts only activate in the presence of vampire royalty. Elena thought about her grandmother, the strange stories, the warnings, the way she'd always insisted Elena was special, destined for something greater than their small town. My grandmother, she said slowly, she used to tell me we were descended from ancient warriors, protectors of kings. I thought she was just making things up, creating fantasy to make our boring lives seem interesting. She was trying to prepare you in case you ever encountered one of us. Damon's voice softened. I had no idea what I was walking into tonight. I just saw someone hurt. She stopped, looked at him. Wait, why was I even there? I take that shortcut every night. But I've never seen anything weird before. Why tonight? Damon went very still. What do you mean you take that path every night? For 2 years, ever since I got the job at Martha's Diner. The forest cuts 15 minutes off my walk. The chains were placed on that tree 3 days ago, Damon said softly. I was left there to dust slowly, the silver siphoning my power into the runes. Someone knew you'd pass by eventually. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. You're saying this was a setup. Someone wanted me to find you. I'm saying someone knew a protector bloodline still existed in this area. They needed you to reveal yourself. Damon sat up despite his exhaustion. The runes on those chains, they were designed to call to you, to make you feel compelled to stop, to touch them. Elena remembered that wrongness she'd felt in the forest, the metallic taste in the air, the way she'd been unable to just walk past. But who would know about me? I didn't even know about me until tonight. That's what we need to figure out, because whoever orchestrated this isn't just trying to kill me. Damon's eyes met hers and she saw genuine fear there for the first time. They're trying to capture you, and now that you've activated your marks, you're broadcasting your existence to every supernatural creature within 100 miles. Outside, the city was waking up. Traffic sounds filtered through the thin walls. Normal people going about normal lives, completely unaware that monsters were real, and one was lying in a motel room 10 feet away from them. Elena looked at the glowing lines on her palm again. They pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. How do I turn them off? You can't. Damon's voice was gentle. They're part of you now. They'll fade slightly when we're apart, but they'll never fully disappear. Great. So I'm a supernatural beacon. Yes. Elena closed her eyes. Exhaustion pulled at her like a physical weight. She'd been awake for over 24 hours. Her body ached. Her hand throbbed where the burn had been. Her mind couldn't stop spinning through impossible revelations. But sleep felt dangerous, like if she closed her eyes, she'd wake up and this would all be real, and she'd have to figure out what to do next. A phone buzzed. Her phone. Elena pulled it out. The screen was cracked from the highway fight, but still functional. 17 missed calls from Martha. 12 texts asking where she was. The last one read, if you're not dead in a ditch, you're fired. Good morning to you too, Martha, Elena muttered. She scrolled through her notifications. News alerts, local news websites. Her blood turned to ice. Breaking 3 bodies found on Highway 7. Police investigating. Witnesses report seeing a woman matching this description. There was a sketch. It looked enough like her to be problematic. They're spinning a story, Demon said, reading over her shoulder. Making you look like a criminal. Classic tactic. Turn human authorities against you so you have nowhere to run. This is insane. I didn't kill those people. You killed them. In self-defense. Try explaining that to police who don't believe in vampires. Elena's phone buzzed again. Another news alert. This one made her heart stop completely. Breaking Vampire King Damon Ashford declared dead. Crown Prince Lucian Ashford assumes throne in emergency ceremony. Suspect in alleged kidnapping and murder. Elena Morrison, age 23, local waitress. There was her driver's license photo, her address, her workplace. And there was Lucian Ashford standing before cameras in a press conference, his face arranged in perfect grief. My dear cousin, Lucian said, his voice smooth as silk and twice as deadly, was taken from us by tragic circumstances. A human woman, Elena Morrison, abducted him, subjected him to torture before ultimately ending his life. She is extremely dangerous, armed with stolen supernatural artifacts. If you see her, do not approach. Contact authorities immediately. The video continued, but Elena couldn't hear it anymore over the rushing in her ears. Lucian, the man from the diner, the one who'd sat there while Victoria mocked her, who'd waved her apology away like she was nothing. He was Damon's cousin. He was the one who'd declared Damon dead. He knew, she whispered. He knew I'd be at the diner tonight. He saw me. Made sure I saw him. Yes, Damon said, his voice pure cold rage. He orchestrated everything. The chains in your path, making sure you saw him earlier so you'd recognize the family resemblance. All of it. But why go through all this? Why not just kill you and be done with it? Because killing a sitting vampire king requires unanimous court approval. Damon's fists clenched. But if I simply disappeared, if I died under mysterious circumstances at the hands of a human, He gets the throne by default, and he gets to blame my death on you. Which means Elena finished her stomach sinking, which means every vampire and hunter will be after me. I'm not just wanted by assassins anymore. I'm wanted by everyone. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Elena's instinct screamed not to answer. But something, maybe that same instinct that had made her stop in the forest, made her free demon, made her press the button. Hello, Elena. Lucian's voice was even more chilling in person than on television. I've been waiting 300 years to meet a Silvercrest. Elena's hand tightened on the phone. Demon sat up straighter, listening. How did you get this number? I have access to everything now. Police databases, cell towers, satellite surveillance. Being king has its privileges. His laugh was cold. You've been very entertaining. Escaping my shadow guard, surviving the hunter attacks, even finding sanctuary, albeit temporarily. What do you want? The same thing I've always wanted, complete control over the protector bond. Lucian's voice took on an eager edge. You see, your ancestors were too independent, too powerful. They chose their kings instead of serving whoever claimed the throne. That's unacceptable. Elena felt Damon tense beside her, listening through their strange connection. So you've been killing off my family for centuries. Studying them, actually. Each generation gave me more data, more understanding of how the bloodline works. Your grandmother was particularly useful before she escaped. He paused. But you, Elena, you're the culmination of everything. The purest bloodline, the strongest manifestation. When I bond you to myself, I'll have power beyond any vampire king in history. I'll never bond with you. You won't have a choice. That's what the ritual is for. The same one I've perfected over 3 centuries of trial and error. Another pause. Damon's mother was my first successful subject, actually, before the ritual killed her. Beside Elena, Damon went absolutely still. Yes, cousin, Lucian purred, clearly sensing his reaction somehow. How do you think I've been manipulating you all these years? Why you trusted me, protected me, gave me positions of power. Your mother's bond to me passed to you when you were born. I've been controlling you your entire life, and you never knew. You're lying, Demon said, but Elena could feel his doubt through their connection. And I think about every major decision you've made, every advisor you appointed, every policy you enacted, all of it serving my interests, moving my pieces into place. Lucian laughed. You were never really King Damon. You were just my puppet, and now I don't need you anymore. The call ended. Elena looked at Damon. His face was a mask of horror and rage, centuries of certainty crumbling. If he's been controlling you, she started, then everything I've done, every choice I thought was mine. Damon's voice broke. It was all him. My entire reign was a lie. No, Elena grabbed his shoulders, forcing him to look at her. You broke free. You're here now, making your own choices. That's what matters. But he's coming for you. He has the resources of the entire vampire court, human law enforcement, supernatural hunters. Damon's eyes met hers. I can't protect you from that. No one can. Elena felt the mark's pulse on her palm, felt the bond between them thrumming with power. Then we don't run anymore, she said. We end this. We go after him. That's suicide. Maybe. But it's better than spending the rest of my life looking over my shoulder. Elena's jaw set with determination. Besides, I'm not just some powerless human anymore. I'm a Silvercrest, the last of the first protectors. And if Lucian wants to control me that badly, it means he's afraid of what I could do if I learned to use my full power. Damon studied her for a long moment. Then slowly he smiled. A real smile, fierce and feral. You're absolutely insane. I learned from the best. Elena stood, energy flooding through her despite the exhaustion. Now, we have until tomorrow night before Lucian solidifies his power. Where do we start? Outside, sirens wailed. Helicopters thundered overhead. Every law enforcement agency in 3 states was hunting them. But Elena Morrison wasn't afraid anymore. She was done running. It was time to show everyone exactly what a Silvercrest protector could do. They left the motel at dusk when the sun had bled out against the horizon, and Damon could move without his skin blistering. Elena had slept fitfully in the armchair for 3 hours while he'd lain motionless on the bed, looking dead except for the occasional rise and fall of his chest. She'd watched him in those stolen moments between sleep and waking. Watched how the shadows gathered around him like old friends. Watched how still a creature could be when it had lived for centuries. When breathing was habit, not necessity. She'd also watched the news on her cracked phone screen. Watched her face appear on every channel. Watched Lucian's perfect grieving performance play on repeat. Watched her life as Elena Morrison waitress burn to ash. There was no going back now, only forward. They took back roads toward Thornwick, a town Elena had never heard of, through countryside that looked abandoned in the failing light. Damon drove the stolen SUV with one hand, the other resting against his ribs where silver burns were still healing. "Tell me about Mother Seraphine," Elena said, breaking an hour of silence. "She's old. Older than me, maybe." Damon's eyes stayed fixed on the road. "She was human once, made a choice, drank vampire blood willingly to extend her life so she could protect the archives. That was 60 years ago. So she's like me, human but not." "No," he glanced at her. "You're protector-born. It's in your blood, your bones, your DNA. Seraphine made herself into something else through choice and sacrifice. You were born to this. That's why you're dangerous. That's why Lucian wants you." The words settled in Elena's stomach like stones. Born to this, she thought about all the years she'd felt ordinary, wrong somehow, like a puzzle piece that didn't fit anywhere. Maybe she'd never been meant to fit into the normal world. Maybe she'd been meant for this one all along. What if I can't do this? The question escaped before she could stop it. What if I'm not strong enough? Damon was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was gentler than she'd heard it. 3 hours ago, you were sleeping in a motel armchair. But you didn't run. You didn't break. You slept for 3 hours and woke up ready to fight. He looked at her fully now. Strength isn't about never being afraid, Elena. It's about being terrified and moving forward anyway. You've been doing that your entire life. You just didn't know it had a name. Something in Elena's chest loosened, just slightly, just enough to breathe. Thornwick appeared through the darkness like something from a forgotten photograph. Main Street was lined with brick buildings that hadn't changed since 1950. Mom and pop shops with hand-painted signs. A diner with an actual soda fountain in the window. The kind of town where time moved differently, slower, like it had decided the modern world could wait. Damon parked behind an old stone building that looked more like a church than a library. Gothic architecture. Stained glass windows catching the last of the dying light. Gargoyles perched on corners, their faces worn smooth by a century of rain. A small brass plaque beside the door read, "Thornwick Historical Archives." "How do we get in?" Elena asked. "It's after hours." Oh, Damon smiled grimly and tried the door handle. It opened smoothly, soundlessly. "They're always open to those who need them," he said. "Part of the monastery's original covenant. Sanctuary and knowledge for any supernatural being who seeks it." Inside, Elena stopped breathing. The library was breathtaking. Vaulted ceilings that disappeared into shadows. Bookshelves stretching 3 stories high, accessible by wrought iron spiral staircases that seemed too delicate to hold weight. The air smelled of old paper and leather and something else. Something Elena couldn't name but recognized in her bones. History, magic, truth. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Elena spun. A woman stood between the shelves. Elderly silver hair pulled back in a bun, green eyes that seemed to see straight through skin and bone to whatever lay beneath. "Mother Seraphine," Damon said, bowing slightly. "We need access to the restricted archives, the sections on protector bloodlines." "Of course you do." Those green eyes shifted to Elena, widened. "By the old gods, she's manifested already. The marks are fully formed." "You can see them." Elena held up her palm. "Child, everyone with even a drop of supernatural blood can see them. You're broadcasting your heritage like a lighthouse in a storm." Mother Seraphine moved closer, studying Elena with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. "Your power signature is extraordinary, stronger than any protector in recorded history." "That's impossible," Damon said. "The bloodlines were diluted over generations. Each successive protector was weaker than the last. Unless this one isn't from a diluted line." Mother Seraphine turned and headed deeper into the library. "Come, what you need to see is in the catacombs." They followed her down a spiral staircase that seemed to descend forever. The air grew colder, damper. Electric lights gave way to oil lamps that cast dancing shadows on stone walls. The catacombs were filled with filing cabinets, ancient chests, shelves packed with documents and languages Elena didn't recognize. Mother Seraphine pulled out a leather-bound book, its cover marked with a symbol Elena had seen before. In her grandmother's jewelry box. In dreams she'd half forgotten. "The Registry of Protector Houses," Mother Seraphine said, opening it carefully. "Every family line, every birth, every death, recorded for 2,000 years." She turned pages until she found what she was looking for. Her finger traced down a genealogy chart following one line through centuries of names. The House of Silvercrest, she read. The first protectors. They served the original vampire kings before the courts were established. Before politics corrupted the bond, they were the strongest, the purest, and the most dangerous. She looked up at Elena. They were also declared extinct in 1723. My grandmother's name was Silvercrest, Elena whispered. Vera Silvercrest. Mother Seraphine flipped to another page, a family tree with most branches crossed out in red ink. But one thin line continued names written in tiny script. Survivors who'd hidden, changed their names, scattered across the world. The last name on the list was Eleanor Silvercrest, crossed out in red, dated 1995. And beside it in faded ink, final bloodline heir, status presumed dead, location unknown. They were hunting your family, Demon said quietly. For 300 years. Someone has been systematically eliminating every Silvercrest descendant. But why we weren't hurting anyone? We were just existing. Existing is the threat. Mother Seraphine's voice was gentle. The mere existence of a first protector is a threat to whoever currently holds power. Because a first protector's bond can't be broken, can't be controlled, can't be corrupted. She closed the book carefully. You're not just a protector, Elena. You're the protector, the last of the original line, and your blood has the power to restore or destroy entire vampire courts. Elena felt the weight of those words settle on her shoulders like chains, heavier than the ones she'd broken in Blackwood Forest. There's something else. Mother Seraphine pulled out a smaller book, a journal, its pages yellowed with age, written by the last Silvercrest matriarch before she went into hiding. She opened it to a page marked with a black ribbon. The handwriting was elegant, careful. The ink had faded, but the words were still clear. They took my daughter, said they needed her blood for a ritual. When I found her, she was changed, marked with runes that shouldn't exist. They're trying to create something. A weapon or a tool, I don't know. But they want to control the protector bond, to twist it into servitude. Mother Seraphine looked up at Elena. If you're reading this, if you're my descendant, know this. Your blood is your own. No one can claim it. No one can own you. Trust your instincts. They carry the wisdom of 1,000 generations. Below the entry was a seal pressed into wax, still preserved and after centuries. It was identical to the marks on Elena's palm. Someone's been trying to recreate the protector bond, Demon said slowly. To manufacture it, control it. And they needed you to activate, Elena finished. That's why they chained you where I'd find you. They wanted to see if the bloodline still existed, if it would respond. Which means whoever is behind this has been planning for a very long time, Mother Seraphine said grimly. Footsteps echoed from the top of the staircase. Multiple sets, moving fast. They found us, Demon said. Mother Seraphine smiled, sharp and fierce despite her age. Then it's a good thing this library has more exits than entrances. Follow me, quickly. She led them through a maze of passages carved into bedrock. The footsteps above multiplied hunters flooding into the building, shouting coordinates, sealing exits. They've surrounded us, Demon said, his enhanced hearing picking up movements Elena couldn't detect yet. The catacombs connect to the old monastery tunnels, Mother Seraphine said, moving with surprising speed. They run under half the town. You can emerge near the old cemetery, 2 miles north. You're not coming with us, Elena asked. Someone needs to slow them down. Besides, Mother Seraphine's smile was dangerous. I've been keeper of these archives for 60 years. You think I don't know how to defend them? They reached a junction where 3 tunnels branched off. Mother Seraphine pressed a leather satchel into Elena's hands. Everything you need to know about your bloodline. Guard it with your life. Thank you, Elena said. Don't thank me yet. What's coming will test you in ways you can't imagine. Mother Seraphine looked at Damon. Protect her, not because she's your protector, because she's the key to everything. Before either could respond, she turned back toward the library, already muttering words in a language that made the air shimmer. This way, quickly. Damon grabbed Elena's hand. They ran through tunnels that seemed to shift and twist, following Damon's instincts. Behind them, Elena heard explosions. Mother Seraphine making good on her promise to slow the hunters down. The tunnel opened into a drainage culvert near an old cemetery. Headstones leaned at odd angles, names worn away by time. The moon had risen full and cold. Demon pulled Elena into the shadow of a maintenance building. They collapsed against the wall, gasping. Elena's hands were shaking, not from fear this time, from something else. Anger maybe, or determination. We need to get to Crimson Hall, she said. We have until tomorrow night before Lucian solidifies his power. After that, he'll be untouchable. Demon looked at her. Elena, you understand what we're walking into, the Vampire Council. 200 of the oldest, most dangerous creatures in existence. Many of them will be loyal to Lucian now. If we present ourselves and fail to prove our case, then we die, I know. Elena met his eyes. But we die free, making our own choices. That's more than I had 3 days ago. Demon stared at her, then slowly he smiled. You're absolutely terrifying, you know that. I learned from someone. A figure emerged from the shadows. Elena's barrier shield flared instinctively, energy crackling around her fist. Easy. The figure raised his hands. I'm a friend. He stepped into the moonlight. Male appearing mid-30s, though his eyes suggested he was far older. Dark hair, sharp features, dressed in black tactical gear, but no weapons visible. Marcus Hale, he said. I served King Damon before the coup. Prove it, Elena said, shield still crackling. Marcus pulled something from his pocket. A coin, silver with Demon's seal stamped on one side. You gave these to your personal guard. 23 of us. 17 are dead now. Lucian's purge. Demon took the coin, examined it. This is real. Marcus was captain of my night guard. Was. Marcus's voice was bitter. Until your cousin declared you dead and ordered us all executed. I escaped. Been gathering survivors. He looked at Elena. Word spread fast about the Silvercrest. Half the supernatural world wants you dead. The other half wants to use you. And which half are you? Elena asked. The third half. The ones who want their real king back. Marcus's expression was fierce. Lucian's already consolidating power, calling an emergency council session. Tomorrow night, Crimson Hall. If you don't show up, he'll be crowned by unanimous vote. Tomorrow? Demon's jaw tightened. That doesn't give us enough time to... It gives us exactly enough time, Elena interrupted. He's arrogant, thinks we're too scared to show up. That's our advantage. Marcus looked at her with something like respect. You're not what I expected. No one ever does. Elena turned to Damon. We need to get into Crimson Hall. Can he help? I can get you in, Marcus said. But after that, you're on your own. Most of the council is split. 2 houses openly support Lucian, 2 are neutral. 1 house, Ravenclaw, has been asking questions. They're old, traditional. They care about legitimacy. And the last house, Demon asked? Extinct, wiped out in the purge. Marcus's expression darkened. Lucian doesn't leave loose ends, except you 2 apparently. They moved through Thornwick's shadows, Marcus leading them to a safe house on the outskirts. An abandoned church with boarded windows and a basement that had been converted into a tactical center. Maps covered the walls, surveillance photos, documents. 6 other vampires waited inside. They turned when Damon entered, and Elena watched their faces shift from suspicion to shock to something like hope. My king, one of them whispered. A woman young-looking, but eyes ancient. She dropped to one knee. The others followed. Get up, Demon said quietly. We're past formality. If you're here, you're risking your lives. I won't ask anyone to bow. You're our king, the woman said. We bow because we choose to. Elena felt something shift in the room. These weren't subjects following orders. They were believers. True believers who thought Demon was worth dying for. She hoped they were right. Marcus spread a map of Crimson Hall across a table. The council meets here. Main chamber. Only 1 entrance for non-council members. Security will be insane. They'll have Silver Guard at every checkpoint. Silver Guard, Elena asked. Elite fighters, trained specifically to kill vampires and supernatural creatures. They use silver weapons, blessed ammunition. Very dangerous. Marcus traced routes on the map. Your best chance is to enter during the opening ceremony, when all eyes are on Lucian's coronation. You'll have maybe 5 minutes before they realize who you are. And then, Demon asked, then you invoke right of challenge. Ancient law. If you're really alive, you have the right to present yourself before the council. They have to hear you. What if they don't believe it's really me? What if they think she's using dark magic to create an illusion? Marcus looked at Elena. Then you prove the bond is real, publicly, in front of everyone. Elena's stomach dropped. How blood trial, the ancient-eyed woman said. If she's truly protector-born, her blood will neutralize ancient poison. The council keeps Banefire in storage for emergencies. If you're fake, you both die. If you're real, we have proof that can't be denied, Elena finished, and Lucian's lies are exposed. It's insanely dangerous, Marcus warned. Banefire is deadly. One drop kills a vampire in minutes. If her blood doesn't work, it will work, Demon said firmly. I've seen what her blood can do. Have you? Marcus's eyes were sharp. You've seen it heal surface wounds, silver burns, but this is different. This is pure poison. Silence fell over the group. I'll do it, Elena said. All eyes turned to her. If it's the only way to prove we're real, I'll do it. Elena, Demon started. You don't get to decide for me. Her voice was steady. This is my choice, my bloodline, my risk. She saw respect flicker across the faces of the assembled vampires. Even Marcus nodded slightly. We leave at dusk tomorrow, Marcus said. That gives us 20 hours to prepare. The group dispersed to various tasks, gathering intel, securing escape routes, preparing weapons. Elena found herself alone in a corner of the basement, staring at the map of Crimson Hall. 200 vampires, one chance. If she failed, they'd die. Publicly, messily. You're thinking too loud. She turned. Demon had appeared beside her with that unnerving vampire silence. I'm thinking about all the ways this can go wrong, Elena admitted. Only all of them I counted at least 53. Despite everything, Elena almost smiled. You're not helping. I'm not trying to. Demon leaned against the wall beside her, close but not touching. I'm trying to be honest. This is dangerous. Probably fatal. You can still walk away. No, I can't. Elena looked at her palm. You said it yourself. I'm broadcasting my existence now. Lucian knows what I am. If I run, he'll just hunt me down. At least this way I'm fighting back. That's not the only reason. She looked at him. He was watching her with those golden eyes that saw too much. No, she admitted. It's not. For the first time in my life, I'm something. Someone. I'm not giving that up without a fight. You were always someone, Demon said quietly. You just needed the world to catch up. Something warm spread through Elena's chest. She opened her mouth to respond, but footsteps interrupted. A vampire burst into the basement. Young panicked. Marcus, we've got company. Everyone moved at once, weapons drawn, positions taken. Elena's barrier shield flickered to life around her fists. How many? Marcus demanded. At least 20, coming from the north entrance. Shadow guard by the look of them. They found us already, the ancient-eyed woman cursed. How? Doesn't matter. Marcus turned to Demon. We need to move. Now. Cathedral of St. Agnes is 3 blocks east, abandoned but defensible. We can regroup there. They evacuated in controlled chaos. Elena found herself running through Thornwick's dark streets, Demon at her side, surrounded by vampires who moved like shadows given form. The Cathedral of St. Agnes loomed ahead, Gothic spires reaching for the sky, massive wooden doors hanging open like a wound. They poured inside just as crossbow bolts began striking the stone behind them. The cathedral's interior was a skeleton of former glory. Pews broken and scattered. Altar collapsed. Moonlight streamed through the ruined roof, casting everything in silver and shadow. They're surrounding the building, Marcus said, his enhanced hearing picking up movement. At least 30 now, maybe more. We're trapped, the young vampire said. Not trapped. Elena was staring up at the damaged roof, at the way moonlight painted patterns on the floor. We have high ground, bottlenecks. We make them come to us. Marcus looked at her with new assessment. You've done this before. I've worked retail during Black Friday sales. Elena's smile was grim. Same principle. Control the chaos or it controls you. They had maybe 3 minutes to prepare. Marcus positioned fighters at strategic points. Demon stood at the center, ready to face whoever came through the main entrance. Elena took position near a collapsed pillar, hands already glowing with barrier energy. The attack came from 3 directions at once. Shadow guards poured through the main doors, through broken windows, through a collapsed section of wall. They moved with military precision, crossbows firing in coordinated volleys. Elena threw up a barrier. Silver bolts struck it and fell harmlessly. But the effort made her head swim. Holding a shield this large against this many attacks. Lena, Demon shout. She turned. A shadow guard had circled behind silver blade raised for her throat. Instinct took over. Elena's hand shot out. The barrier around her hand extended, shaped itself into something solid, something sharp. She punched the guard. The barrier blade punched through his chest. He fell eyes wide with shock. Elena stared at her hand, at the blade of pure energy extending from her fist. It flickered and vanished, but she'd felt it. Solid, real, deadly. Did you just, Marcus started. Focus. Demon was fighting three guards at once, moving too fast to track. Blood splattered, screams cut short. The battle raged. Elena learned as she fought, discovered abilities she hadn't known she possessed. Barriers that could protect, barriers that could cut. She could see the fight from multiple angles, her perspective, Demon's perspective, even Marcus's for a flickering moment. But there were too many. For every guard that fell, two more appeared. Elena's nose started bleeding, her vision blurred. The barriers were draining her faster than she could recover. A guard broke through, blade aimed at her heart. Demon appeared between them, taking the blow meant for her. The silver blade sank into his shoulder. He roared, ripped the guard's head clean off, but he was injured, weakening. Demon? Elena tried to reach him, but three guards blocked her path. Then light, blinding holy light that made the guards scream and scatter. Elena shielded her eyes. When she could see, again a figure stood in the cathedral entrance, not a guard, not a vampire. A woman, blonde, beautiful, dressed in clothes that cost more than Elena's entire existence. Victoria, from the diner, Lucian's companion. "Hello, little waitress," Victoria said, her voice dripping with contempt. "Lucian sends his regards." She raised her hand. The guards fell back, forming ranks behind her. "Victoria," Demon's voice was pained. "You're one of them." "Oh, sweet Damon, I've always been one of them." Victoria smiled. "Did you really think Lucian only controlled you? I've been his spy in your court for 50 years. Every secret you shared, every strategy you planned, all of it went straight to him." Marcus cursed. Elena felt sick. "And now," Victoria continued, "I'm here to collect the protector. Lucian wants her alive. The rest of you," she shrugged, "expendable." "Over my corpse," Demon snarled. "That can be arranged." Victoria's smile widened. "But first, since we're being honest, let me tell you the best part." She looked directly at Elena. "The bond you're so proud of, it's killing you. Every time you use your powers, it drains years from your lifespan. You've used your abilities, 50 times in the last day? Congratulations, you just burned through 5 years. Elena's blood turned to ice. "You're lying." "Am I? Why do you think protectors died young? Why the bloodline was so rare?" Victoria's laugh was cruel. "Power always has a price, and yours is time. At your current rate, you have maybe 6 months left, maybe less." Demon's face drained of what little color it had. "No, that's not—" "Oh, it's very true. Ask Mother Seraphine if she's still alive after we burned down her precious archives." Victoria took a step forward. "So here's the deal, little waitress. Come with me peacefully. Lucian will bond you before you burn out completely. You'll live forever. Isn't that better than dying in 6 months? And if I refuse?" Victoria's smile disappeared. "Then I kill everyone in this cathedral, starting with Demon, and I make you watch." She raised her hand. The guards raised their weapons. Elena looked at Damon, at Marcus, at the vampires who'd risked everything to help them. She thought about 6 months, about burning through her lifespan with every barrier she raised, about the choice between slavery and death. She thought about Lucian's voice on the phone, Bershon, about 300 years of manipulation, about the chains in Blackwood Forest and the coffee spilled at the diner. She made her choice. "No," Elena said. Victoria's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me." "I said no." Elena stepped forward, barriers flaring around both hands. "You can tell Lucian I'm coming for him. Tomorrow, at Crimson Hall, in front of the entire council. And I'm going to expose every lie he's ever told." Brave words for a dead woman. "Then kill me, right here, right now." Elena's voice was steady. "But you won't, because Lucian needs me alive for his ritual. Which means I have leverage. Which means I'm walking out of here, and you're going to let me." The cathedral went silent. Everyone staring at Elena Morrison, 23-year-old waitress, facing down a vampire assassin with nothing but glowing hands and absolute conviction. Victoria's smile returned, but this time it was different. "Uglier. You're right. Lucian wants you alive." But he never said anything about intact. She lunged impossibly fast, silver blade aimed at Elena's legs. "Let's see how brave you are without your kneecaps." Demon moved to intercept, but he was too slow, too injured. Marcus was too far away. Elena was alone. The blade came down. Elena's barrier exploded outward, not just around her hands this time, around her entire body. A sphere of pure protective energy that caught Victoria mid-strike and threw her backward into the cathedral wall. Stone cracked from the impact. The effort made Elena's knees buckle. Blood poured from her nose, but she stayed standing. "Anyone else?" she asked, looking at the guards. They looked at Victoria, at Elena, at their own mortality suddenly made very clear. They ran. Victoria pulled herself from the rubble, her perfect face twisted with rage. This isn't over. No, Elena agreed. It's not. See you tomorrow, at Crimson Hall. Tell Lucian I'm coming. Victoria vanished into the night, taking her remaining guards with her. Silence fell over the cathedral. Then Marcus started laughing. Holy hell, you just threatened Lucian Ashford through his top assassin, while bleeding from your nose and barely standing. Was that stupid? Elena asked. Incredibly. Marcus's grin was fierce. Also brilliant. You just bought us credibility. Word will spread that a protector stood against Victoria and lived. That changes things. But what she said, Demon moved to Elena's side, about the bond killing you. We'll figure it out. Elena tried to keep her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her insides. 6 months, maybe less. Right now we focus on tomorrow, on surviving Crimson Hall. If we survive, Demon said quietly, I won't let you die. I'll find a way to break the curse. If we survive, Elena corrected. They left the cathedral as dawn threatened the horizon. Demon needed shelter from the coming sun. Marcus led them to a hidden safe house deeper underground where light couldn't penetrate. Elena collapsed onto a cot in a corner. Her entire body ached. Her head pounded. Every use of her powers carved another piece from her lifespan, and she could feel it now. Feel the toll. But she'd made her choice. 6 months as herself, as someone who mattered, was better than a lifetime of being overlooked. Demon sat beside her in the darkness. I should have protected you better. You can't protect me from myself. Elena's laugh was tired. This is my power, my choice, my consequence. Then let me share it. Damon took her hand. Whatever curse this is, we face it together. Elena felt something warm spread through her chest. Not romantic love, not yet, maybe not ever, but something deeper. Trust. Partnership. The bone-deep certainty that this person, this vampire king who'd been a puppet for centuries, understood what it meant to choose freedom over safety. Tomorrow, she said. Tomorrow we face Lucian. We prove the bond is real. We expose his lies. And if we die, then we die making our own choices. Elena squeezed his hand. That's more than either of us had before. They sat in the darkness as dawn broke above ground. In 20 hours they would walk into Crimson Hall, face 200 vampires, stake their lives on a blood trial that might kill them both. But tonight, in this stolen moment of peace, Elena Morrison wasn't powerless. She was a Silvercrest protector, the last of her bloodline, the most powerful being her kind had seen in 3 centuries. And tomorrow she would prove it, or die trying. Crimson Hall stood at the heart of the supernatural district, hidden in plain sight among Emberfall's financial towers. To human eyes, it was just another corporate headquarters, glass and steel reaching toward the sky. Security guards in the lobby. Normal. But Elena could see what humans couldn't. The building pulsed with old magic. Ancient wards carved into foundations laid 2 centuries ago. The glass windows weren't glass at all. They were crystallized vampire blood, strong as steel, dark as night. The guards in the lobby had eyes that reflected light wrong. This was the seat of vampire power in North America, and she was walking straight into it. Last chance to run, Marcus said from the driver's seat. He'd brought them here in a nondescript van, part of a 3-vehicle convoy. Insurance, he'd called it. Once you're inside, there's no extraction. You're committed. I was committed the moment I touched those chains. Elena checked her reflection in the van's mirror. She wore a simple dress, gray, unremarkable, deliberately plain. The clothes of someone meant to blend into the background. Let them underestimate her one more time. Demon sat beside her dressed in black that made him look like death personified. He'd fed that morning Marcus's offering, and his strength had returned. His wounds had healed, but his eyes held something Elena hadn't seen before. Fear. Not for himself. For her. The trial, he said quietly. If anything goes wrong, if your blood doesn't work, then we die together. Elena took his hand. The protector marks on her palm glowed softly against his cold skin. I've made peace with that. Have you? He studied her face for a long moment. You're 23 years old. You should be worrying about student loans and bad dates, not dying in a vampire trial. I'd rather die as somebody than live as nothing. Marcus turned from the driver's seat. It's time. Council session starts in 10 minutes. You need to be in position. They exited the van in the underground parking garage. Elena counted 30 vampires waiting Marcus's people, the last loyalists who believed Demon was the rightful king. They formed a protective cordon around Elena and Damon as they moved toward the service elevator. Remember, Marcus said as the elevator descended down, not up, because Crimson Hall's true chambers were underground. You enter during the opening ceremony. The guards will try to stop you. Don't fight them. Invoke right of challenge immediately. Ancient law requires them to bring you before the council. And if they don't honor ancient law, Elena asked, then we fight our way out. Marcus's smile was grim. But that's Plan Z. Let's hope we don't get there. The elevator opened onto a corridor carved from livingstone. Torches burned in iron sconces, real fire, not electric lights. The air tasted of smoke and blood and centuries of accumulated power. Elena's marks flared brighter with each step. Ahead, massive double doors stood closed, carved from wood so old it had turned black, inlaid with silver runes that writhed like living things. Two guards flanked the entrance, not human, not even trying to pretend. The council is in session, one guard said. His voice sounded like gravel grinding. No admittance. I invoke right of challenge. Demon's voice rang with authority. I am Demon Ashford, rightful king, and I claim my place before the council. The guards looked at each other, uncertain. King Damon is dead, the second guard said. Killed by that human. He pointed at Elena. Then let the council judge whether I'm a ghost or a king. Damon stepped forward. Ancient law blood guard, you can't deny me. The first guard hesitated, then reached for the door handle. The council will decide your fate. The doors swung open. Elena's breath caught. Crimson Hall's main chamber was vast beyond reason. The ceiling arched high overhead, supported by columns carved to look like twisted trees. Red silk banners hung from the rafters, each marked with a different house sigil. And the floor was inlaid with precious stones, forming a massive ritual circle that glowed with its own light. 200 vampires filled the chamber. They sat in tiered seating that rose on all sides, amphitheater style. Every face turned as Elena and Damon entered. Every conversation stopped. And at the center, standing on a raised dais before an ornate throne, stood Lucian Ashford. He wore ceremonial robes, black and crimson, heavy with gold embroidery. A crown sat on a velvet cushion beside him, ready to be placed on his head. He'd been mid-speech when the doors opened. Now his face went through a fascinating series of expressions. Shock, rage, and finally that cold smile Elena had learned to hate. Well, Lucian said, his voice carrying across the chamber. This is unexpected. Is it? Damon strode forward, Marcus and the loyalists flanking him. Did you really think I'd stay dead, cousin? The chamber erupted in whispers, vampires rising from their seats, guards moving toward weapons. The air crackled with tension. Silence! An ancient voice cut through the chaos. An elderly vampire stood in the highest tier, female with silver hair and eyes like black glass. She wore robes that marked her as council elder, the judges who presided over all vampire law. Elder Morgana. Marcus had briefed Elena on her. 500 years old, famously impartial, famously cruel to liars. Demon Ashford, Morgana said, you stand accused of abandoning your throne, of deserting your duties, she glanced at Lucian, being murdered by this human. I was chained in Blackwood Forest with silver bonds designed to kill me slowly. Damon's voice was steady. Left to die by traitors who wanted my crown. This woman freed me, saved my life. She is Elena Morrison, a Silvercrest protector, and my bonded companion. The chamber exploded again. Louder this time. Silvercrest. The name rippled through the crowd like electricity. Impossible, someone shouted. The bloodline is extinct. Clearly not, Demon replied. Lucian descended from the dais, moving with predatory grace. An interesting story, cousin, but we have only your word for it. For all we know, this woman is using dark magic to create an illusion. Perhaps you're not Demon at all. Perhaps you're some conjured spirit she's using to disrupt my rightful coronation. Murmurs of agreement. Elena felt the crowd's mood shifting. They wanted to believe Lucian. It was easier than accepting they'd been fooled. Then test us, Elena said. Her voice rang out clear and strong. Every eye turned to her. She walked forward deliberately slow until she stood beside Damon, face to face with Lucian, close enough to see the rage burning behind his perfect mask. You claim I'm using dark magic. Elena held up her palm. The marks blazed like captured stars. Then test me. I invoke the blood trial. Silence. Absolute silence. Even Morgana looked surprised. Child, do you understand what you're asking? Yes. Elena's voice didn't shake. If I'm a true Silvercrest protector, my blood will neutralize Banefire poison. If I'm a fraud, she shrugged, then we both die. Here, Now, in front of everyone. No more questions, no more doubt. Lucian's smile faltered. Just for a second. But Elena saw it. You can't be serious, he said. Banefire is deadly. One drop. Are you afraid, Prince Lucian? Elena let the title drip with sarcasm. Afraid that I might be exactly what I claim to be. That your cousin is really alive? That every word you've spoken for the past 2 days has been a lie? The crowd shifted. Whispers rose. Lucian had trapped himself, and he knew it. If he refused the trial, he looked like a coward. If he accepted and Elena survived, his entire story crumbled. The council will allow the blood trial, Morgana declared. Bring the Banefire. 2 guards disappeared through a side door, returned carrying a small crystal vial on a velvet cushion. The liquid inside was black, not dark black, like concentrated void. Even from 10 feet away, Elena could feel its wrongness, its hunger to consume life. The ritual is simple, Morgana explained. The Protector's blood is mixed with Banefire. If the Protector is true, her blood neutralizes the poison. The vampire drinks. If he survives, the bond is proven real. If he dies. She left the sentence hanging. A pedestal rose from the center of the ritual circle. An ancient chalice sat upon it, gold encrusted with rubies old as the building itself. Elena Morrison, Morgana said. Approach. Elena walked forward. Her heart hammered, but her hands stayed steady. She'd learned years ago how to hide fear. Those skills served her well now. A guard handed her a silver knife, ceremonial razor sharp. Your palm, Morgana instructed. 3 drops into the chalice. Elena pressed the blade to her palm, right across the protector marks. Pain bloomed sharp and clean. Blood welled up crimson against her skin. She held her hand over the chalice. 1 drop fell. 2. 3. The guard poured Banefire into the chalice. The black liquid hit Elena's blood, and it hissed, smoked. The black turned gray, then silver, then clear. Like water. Pure water. The chamber erupted in gasps. Impossible, someone whispered. The bloodline lives. Another breathed. Lucian's face had gone pale. Elena allowed herself a small smile. Damon Ashford, Morgana said. The trial requires you to drink. If the Protector is true, you will live. If she is false, you will die within seconds. Do you accept this risk? I do. Damon moved to the chalice without hesitation. Wait. Elena grabbed his arm, leaned close. Whispered so only he could hear. If something goes wrong, if I miscalculated, then we die together. He echoed her words from the van. I trust you, Elena Morrison. He lifted the chalice to his lips. The chamber held its breath. Demon drank. 1 second, 2, 5, 10. He lowered the chalice, set it back on the pedestal, turned to face the council. His eyes blazed gold, brighter than before. Power radiated from him like heat from a forge. The neutralized poison hadn't just failed to harm him, it had strengthened him, given him energy. The bond is real, Morgana declared. Demon Ashford lives, and the Silver Crest bloodline has returned. The chamber exploded. Half the vampires rose to their feet, shouting, some in joy, some in fury. The guards moved nervously, hands on weapons. Lucian stood frozen on his dais crown, still waiting, coronation destroyed. This proves nothing, he snarled. So she's a protector. That doesn't change the fact that Damon abandoned his throne, abandoned his duties. He's unfit to rule. Abandoned, Damon's voice cracked like thunder. You chained me in Blackwood Forest. You orchestrated everything, the assassination attempt, the cover-up, declaring me dead so you could take my crown. Lies, Lucian turned to the council. He's desperate, making wild accusations without proof. I have proof. Elena stepped forward, pulled documents from her dress pocket. Mother Seraphine gave me these before the attack. Financial records, communications, evidence of every transaction you made to hire the Shadow Guard. She handed the papers to Morgana. The elder vampire read them, her expression darkening. These documents show payments to known assassins, Morgana said. Payments authorized by Lucian Ashford, made 3 weeks before Damon's disappearance. Forgeries. Lucian's composure was cracking. She probably created them herself. Enough. A new voice, deep ancient, carrying absolute authority. A figure stood from the highest tier, male, impossibly old, with white hair and eyes like frozen oceans. He wore no robes, no symbols of office. He didn't need them. Lord Theron, first of House Ravenclaw, one of the oldest vampires in existence. I have heard enough lies, Prince Lucian. Theron descended the tiers slowly. Every vampire in the chamber bowed as he passed. Did you think me blind deaf I am 5 centuries old? I have seen schemes that would make yours look like children's games. He reached the floor, crossed to where Lucian stood. The younger vampire actually took a step back. I knew something was wrong when you declared Damon dead without a body. Theron continued. I knew something was wrong when you pushed for an emergency coronation within 2 days. I knew something was wrong when 3 members of the council who would have opposed you died mysteriously the same week. Lucian's face twisted. You know nothing, old man. I know you hired Shadowguard to kill your cousin. I know you orchestrated his disappearance. I know you've been planning this coup for months, perhaps years. Theron turned to the council. And I know we almost crowned a kinslayer. Speculation, Lucian shouted. You have no proof. But I do. A female voice. Victoria stepped from the shadows at the back of the chamber. I have all the proof you need. Lucian's face went dead white. Victoria walked forward, moving through the crowd. She no longer wore expensive clothes. Now she was dressed in tactical gear, weapons visible. Her face was cold, professional. My name is Victoria Crane, she said. Bon, was a deep cover operative for the council's internal affairs. For 50 years, I've been embedded in various houses investigating corruption. For the past 5 years, I've been watching Lucian Ashford. She pulled out a recording device. Ancient technology, mechanical, unable to be hacked or manipulated by magic. This contains every conversation I had with Lucian, every order he gave me, every crime he committed. Victoria looked at Elena, including his plan to capture the Silver Crest Protector and force a bond, to create a weapon he could control. Lucian's voice was strangled. You were working against me. From the beginning. Victoria smiled, cold. You thought you'd bought my loyalty. You thought I was your speaker. I was theirs. She nodded to the council. Every move you made, they knew. They were building a case. We just needed you to act, to commit openly. And you did, spectacularly. Lucian staggered, his perfect plan 50 years in the making crumbling. No, he whispered. No, I was so careful. You were arrogant. Theron's voice was ice. You believed your manipulation of Demon made you invincible. You believed your stolen bond gave you power. But bonds built on lies always fail. Always. I deserve that throne. Lucian's composure shattered completely. I worked for it, I planned for it, everything I did was treason. Morgana stood. Lucian Ashford, the council finds you guilty of attempted regicide, conspiracy, murder, and corruption. The sentence is death. No. Lucian's eyes blazed red. Power exploded from him, raw, desperate, deadly. I won't die, I won't. He moved impossibly fast, not toward the exits, toward Elena. If I can't have the protector, no one will. Silver blade in his hand, aimed at her heart, moving faster than thought. Elena's barrier flared, caught the blade inches from her chest. But Lucian was strong, ancient, empowered by stolen bonds. The blade pushed through, slowly, inexorably. Elena, Demon lunged, but 2 of Lucian's loyalists intercepted him. The chamber erupted into chaos, vampires choosing sides, fighting breaking out, ancient grudges and new alliances clashing in sudden violence. And Elena at the center holding back Lucian's blade with a barrier that was cracking under the pressure. Blood dripped from her nose. Her vision blurred. She was burning through her lifespan with every second she held the shield. But if she dropped it, she died. If she held it, she died. There was no winning. You're nobody, Lucian hissed, face inches from hers. Just a waitress. You don't deserve this power. You don't deserve to be seen. Something in Elena snapped. Not broke. Snapped into place. You're wrong, she said. I was never nothing. You just couldn't see the value. She pushed. The barrier expanded violently, throwing Lucian backward. But he wasn't alone. Shadows coalesced behind him. Took form. A woman appeared, stepping out of darkness like it was a doorway. She was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Perfect features that seemed carved rather than born. Eyes black as void. Dressed in robes that looked ancient and new simultaneously. The entire chamber froze. Even vampires mid-fight stopped. Stared. Aurelia, Theron whispered. Impossible, you're dead. You've been dead for 1,000 years. Dead, the woman. Aurelia laughed. No, Theron, just patient. She moved across the chamber like she owned it. Vampires scrambled out of her way. Even Morgana looked afraid. I am Aurelia Nightborn, she said. First vampire, first protector. I was born 2,000 years ago, when magic still walked openly in this world. I created the protector bond, I perfected it, and I've been waiting for this bloodline to resurface. Her eyes locked on Elena, hungry. The Silvercrest bloodline, the purest, the strongest. Aurelia smiled. I've consumed 47 protectors over the centuries. Each one gave me decades of life. But a Silvercrest, she breathed deeply. A Silvercrest will give me centuries, perhaps millennia. You, Elena's voice was quiet. You're the one who's been hunting my family for 300 years. 300, child, I've been hunting your line for 2,000 years. Aurelia moved closer. Every time I thought the bloodline was extinct, some descendant would emerge. Hidden, protected. Your grandmother was clever. She sealed your powers so I couldn't find you. But you activated anyway. And now you're going to fail. Demon stepped between them. I won't let you touch her. Aurelia flicked her wrist. Demon flew backwards, slammed into the wall hard enough to crack stone. You, Aurelia looked at him with pity. You're a child? 500 years old, I was ancient when your great-grandfather was born. You have no power here. She turned back to Elena. Come, child, I'll make it painless. You'll simply fall asleep, and when you wake, your essence will be part of me. Isn't that better than burning out in 6 months? No, Elena's barriers flared. I choose how I die, not you. Then die you shall. Aurelia's power erupted, not vampire strength, something older, darker, primal magic from when the world was young. Elena's barriers shattered like glass. She fell to her knees, coughing blood. Her vision swam. Around her, the battle had stopped. Everyone watched. Vampire against ancient vampire. Protector against consumer. Pitiful. Aurelia reached for Elena's throat. Such potential, wasted. Elena, Demon's voice, desperate. Elena looked up at Aurelia, at 2,000 years of stolen life, at the death of 47 protectors whose only crime was existing. She thought about her grandmother, about Mother Seraphine, about every Silvercrest who died running and hiding. She thought about the bond between her and Demon. Real, chosen, built on trust instead of manipulation. And she remembered something Mother Seraphine had said, something about an ancient ritual, a true covenant. Wait, Elena gasped. There's another way. Aurelia paused, curious. The true covenant, Elena said, two souls merging completely, sharing everything life-death power. Impossible. That ritual hasn't been performed in 1,000 years. It requires... Aurelia stopped. Understanding dawned. No, you can't be serious. The failure rate is 90%. You'll both die. Maybe, Elena looked at Damon, but if it works, we'll be strong enough to stop you. Strong enough to free every corrupted bond you've created. It's suicide, Aurelia laughed. You're willing to die on a maybe. I'm willing to die fighting. Elena stood, blood still dripping from her nose, body shaking. Instead of on my knees. She crossed to Damon, took his hand. I know what this costs. The merge is permanent. No separation. Ever. We become one being. Are you willing? Demon looked at her. At this woman who'd been overlooked 3 days ago. Who'd saved his life. Who'd walked into certain death multiple times with nothing but conviction and glowing hands. Yes, he said simply. Aurelia's laughter cut off. You're actually doing it. You're insane. Probably. Elena pulled Demon to the center of the ritual circle. The ground there pulsed with old magic, ancient wards built specifically for this purpose. The ritual requires blood from both participants, Demon said. Mixed together, poured onto the circle's center. Then we hold nothing back, Elena finished. Every memory, every fear, every secret, complete merging. They cut their palms simultaneously, pressed them together. Blood mingled crimson and crimson, human and vampire protector and king. The ritual circle blazed to life. Light poured from the stones. Not silver or red, but something in between. Power ancient and new, forbidden and sacred. It wrapped around Elena and Damon like living chains. Elena gasped. Damon's memories flooded into her. 500 years of existence, battles and betrayals, loneliness that stretched for decades. The manipulation by Lucian, feeling his own thoughts twist his own choices, corrupted, helpless to stop it. And Damon gasped as Elena's memories flooded him. 23 years compressed into seconds. The grandmother who'd died too soon. Years of being overlooked. The coffee spilled at the diner. The absolute certainty that she was worthless, that she would die worthless, that nothing she did mattered. Their souls touched, began to merge. It was agony. like being unmade and remade simultaneously. Elena felt her sense of self dissolving, felt Damon's consciousness blending with hers until she couldn't tell where she ended, and he began. Stop it! Aurelia lunged forward, but the ritual circle's power threw her back. You're destroying yourselves. We're completing ourselves, Elena heard herself say. Or was it Damon? Or both? The merge deepened. Elena felt vampire strength flowing into her limbs, felt Damon's protector abilities awakening in his body. They were becoming something new, something that had never existed before. True covenant. The light reached blinding intensity, then silence. The light vanished. Elena and Damon stood in the ritual circle, still holding hands. But they were changed. Elena's eyes blazed gold like a vampire's. Silver protector marks traced up her arms. She radiated power that made the air shimmer. Demon had silver marks mirroring hers. His eyes held both vampire gold and something else, protector silver. They were no longer separate beings. They were one. Two souls sharing one existence. Perfect synchronization. Impossible, Aurelia breathed. Nothing's impossible. Elena and Damon spoke in unison, their voices overlapping. We're proof. They moved. Together, perfectly coordinated. Two bodies with one consciousness. Aurelia attacked. 2,000 years of stolen power focused into one strike. Elena and Damon met it. Barriers of pure protector energy flowing through vampire strength. They didn't just block Aurelia's attack, they shattered it. No, Aurelia stumbled back. I am the first, I am eternal. You're a parasite, Elena's voice. You've lived by consuming others. That's not strength, that's theft. And now Damon's voice. It ends. They struck together. Elena's protector light channeled through Damon's vampire power. Aurelia screamed as the energy hit her. Her stolen life unraveled. 47 protectors worth of stolen essence burning away like morning fog. No, I was, Aurelia's form flickered, faded. Immortal? She disintegrated, became ash, became nothing. Silence fell over Crimson Hall. 200 vampires stared at Elena and Damon, at the true covenant made flesh, at something their kind hadn't seen in a millennium. Elder Morgana was the first to kneel. My king, my queen. One by one the others followed. Even Theron bent his knee. Lucian, still alive, still breathing, stared in horror. This isn't, you can't. Take him to the cells, Demon commanded. Let him live with his failures. Death would be mercy. Guards dragged Lucian away. He screamed, begged, promised things. But no one listened to him anymore. He was nothing now. The council recognizes Demon Ashford as rightful king, Morgana declared, and Elena Morrison Silvercrest as his bonded queen. The first true covenant in recorded history. Let no one question their authority. The chamber erupted in cheers. Not everyone was happy. Some vampires had backed. Lucian had hoped to profit from his rule. But the true covenant was undeniable. Ancient law written in blood and power. Victoria approached, removing her tactical gear. Beneath it, she wore formal dress. I owe you an apology, she said to Elena, for what I said at the cathedral, about your lifespan. It was true, wasn't it? Elena asked. The bond was killing me. It was, until now. Victoria gestured at the merged bond between Elena and Damon. The true covenant changes everything. You're not just bonded, you're one being. His immortality is yours now. Your protector gifts are his. You'll live as long as he does. Elena felt Damon's relief through their merged consciousness, and her own relief mirroring it. Then we have time, Elena said. Time to fix what Lucian broke. Time to reform the courts. Time to be who you were meant to be, Demon finished. They smiled. Together. 3 months later, Elena stood in Crimson Hall again. But this time it was different. The chamber had been transformed, no longer a shadowed space for secret councils. Now light poured through new windows. Banners hung representing not just vampire houses, but protector families, the few that had survived, the ones emerging from hiding now that Aurelia was dead. The coronation was tonight. Official. Public. Witnessed by vampires and humans alike, the first time the supernatural world was formally acknowledging human authority. Elena wore a gown of deep crimson and silver. Crown on her head, not given but earned. She stood beside Damon, his hand in hers, their merged consciousness humming with shared thoughts. Marcus approached dressed in formal regalia. He'd been appointed head of the new royal guard, rebuilt from scratch, with vampires loyal to the true covenant. My king, my queen, the delegates are ready. Elena took a breath. Elena, Damon's voice in her mind and beside her simultaneously. You're thinking too loudly again. I'm thinking about how far we've come. We were always this. The world just needed to see it. They walked together into the throne room. 200 vampires stood, 50 human delegates, representatives from supernatural communities across 3 continents, all assembled to witness the coronation of the true covenant. Elena saw familiar faces, Theron, Morgana, Victoria now officially serving as Internal Affairs Director. Mother Seraphine recovered from her injuries, now head of the Reformed Archives. And in the back, watching from the shadows, a figure Elena almost didn't recognize. An elderly woman, silver hair, green eyes. Her grandmother. Elena froze. Demon felt her shock steadied her. After the ceremony, Elena would find her, would demand answers, would learn that Vera Silvercrest had faked her death 28 years ago, had watched from afar, had kept Elena safe until the moment her powers awakened. But that was later. Now she walked to the throne. Not a single throne the architects had built, 2 side by side, equal in height and splendor. King and queen, not ruler and consort. Partners. The crowd fell silent. We stand before you, Elena said, her voice carrying across the chamber, as proof that power doesn't come from manipulation or theft or cruelty. It comes from choice, Demon continued, from trust, from bonds built on truth instead of lies. For 300 years, the protector bloodlines were hunted, murdered, nearly destroyed. For 500 years, vampire courts have operated in shadows, hiding, manipulating. Today that ends. Today we begin something new. They sat together. Perfect synchronization. The crowd erupted in cheers. Elena felt the weight of the crown on her head, felt the responsibility of 200 vampires and countless humans looking to her for guidance. Felt the merged consciousness she shared with Damon, his strength and her conviction blending into something neither could achieve alone. 3 days ago, she'd been pouring coffee, being overlooked. Today, she was Queen Elena Morrison Silvercrest, first protector in 3 centuries, half of a true covenant that would reshape the supernatural world. They'd said she was worthless, disposable. They'd been wrong, and now they would never forget her name. 3 months later, Elena walked into Martha's diner one final time. She wore simple clothes, but she moved differently now, confident, present. Martha was wiping down the counter when she looked up. Recognition flickered across her face. Then shock. Elena, but you're wanted for... Not anymore. Elena smiled. All charges dropped. Turns out the evidence was fabricated. I was cleared completely. It wasn't technically a lie. The vampire courts had extensive reach into human law enforcement. Lucian's fabricated evidence had been exposed, destroyed. Elena Morrison's record was clean. I came to say thank you, Elena continued, for everything you taught me. I didn't teach you anything. Martha looked uncomfortable. You taught me how to survive being overlooked, how to smile through disrespect, how to endure. Elena's voice was gentle. Those skills saved my life, multiple times. She set an envelope on the counter. This is for the new girl working late shifts. Tell her she's worth more than coffee spills and cruel customers. Tell her to remember that. The envelope contained $5,000, more than Martha's diner made in a month. Elena turned to leave. Wait, Martha's voice stopped her. You're different. What happened to you? Elena looked back, smiled. I found out who I really was. Turns out I was never nothing. I was just waiting for the right moment to be seen. She walked out into afternoon sunshine. Damon waited beside a car, not a Maybach, just a normal sedan. They'd learned that ostentation attracted unwanted attention. How do you feel? He asked through their merged consciousness. Complete, Elena answered. For the first time in my life, complete. They drove toward their whipping life, toward Crimson Hall, toward the throne room where duties waited, toward a future no one had imagined 3 months ago. The radio played news, human news, talking about surprising cooperation between human governments and newly discovered supernatural communities, about diplomatic relations, about a new era of transparency. They didn't mention Elena Morrison by name. The general public didn't know about true covenants or protector bloodlines. They just knew that somewhere in the shadows, humans and vampires had found a way to coexist. That was enough. For now, 3 days ago, she'd been overlooked. Today she was a queen. Tomorrow she would wake up and continue the work of reforming centuries of corruption, would face challenges and enemies and problems that seemed insurmountable, would doubt herself, would struggle, but she would never be overlooked again. They'd said she was worthless, disposable, nothing. They'd been wrong, and she would spend the rest of her very long life proving it.